Change is constant in the idea that it's here. But it's misleading to say change is constant because that sounds like this. Change is constant. We're in a place now where change is like that. It's going really, really fast. We don't have time to sit down and sit back. This is a big difference. That's why we are here today. That's why Greg and I, thank you. That's why Greg and I flew from the States to be here. Is to talk about this, is to talk about change. John Kotter. His first big book, he's written many books. His first big book was called Leading Change. Anybody ever read Leading Change? You're going to get a penguin just for reading Leading Change, sir. All right. Leading Change has really become the major textbook for change management. It came out of his business or his office at Harvard University. And it's a very thick book, 300 or 400 pages. And if I handed it to you and said, here, read this magnificent book by Dr. John Kotter, and next week change my company, what do you think might happen? It's very difficult to do that. How many of you have bosses that hand you books about once a month and said, here, read this. Help advance our company. It's very difficult to do. So Dr. Kotter's written a few books, Leading Change, Heart of Change, and a book called Our Iceberg is Melting. Who here has read Our Iceberg is Melting? Okay, I'm going to save a penguin for you. I think you already got one. You, ma'am, have read one? You just started? No, that's okay. Anybody back here read? Oh, okay. Here we go. Sorry, I just feel like I have to be fair. I'm all the way back here. Stand by, I'm coming. Who said that? Okay, there you go. All right, so John's written these books. The last book here, Our Iceberg is Melting, is actually based directly on this book, Leading Change. The idea here is that he took a very rich in content book and created this funny little parable. We know what a parable is? Who Moved My Cheese? Books like that tell a story with fun and cartoons of a very serious subject matter. One of the things we do is we tend to treat change as a process, and engineers are great at this. You have, here engineer, manage this change. They immediately get out their timeline. We're going to start the change here, we're going to meet it halfway here, and over here, we're going to end the change. Then we're going to get to another next change. Is that the way the world works? Do you think Apple would have had all these new products if that's the way they did things? Change, ongoing, constantly rotating around like a wheel. It should be a philosophy. So in order for us to make change work better, we have to find a different way. We can't put an end date on the change. The change is something we should always be looking for. Okay, very good. Now we're going to look at some of the things that help. So if you look at this, we have conflict here. So here are things that help drive change. Establishing a real sense of urgency for the change. Anybody, what do I mean for urgency? Give me a moment. I'm going to go way in the back because I know I've missed a lot of people way back here. Hold on. Way, way back. In America, we call this the cheap seats back here. So, okay. Anybody back here? What am I talking about urgency? Necessity? Time? How about back here? Come on. You're afraid of me? Anybody? Change or die. That's a wonderful way to say it. Change or die. We'll talk about that later. Okay, does anybody do that right now? How about, does anybody have, I like this one. Does anybody have an Employee of the Month contest? Okay, what do you get? I want to know, what do you get? What do you get? What do you get? What do you get if you're the Employee of the Month? Okay, very small token. Okay. Yes, where? Trip to Malaysia? I want to work for you. Will they fly me from the U.S.? For the month, we get a bonus. You know what they do in the U.S.? They give you a parking spot close to the door. And as I see from walking around Cairo, that would be a very interesting thing. Because crossing the street here is a pretty scary thing to do. I learned that very, very much right away. Okay.
All these steps create the sense of urgency and try to form the group. So how would you react in a position where you don't actually have this visionary leader, Bill?
Well, I think part of this process suggests very strongly that it doesn't necessarily take one person at the top to drag you through the change process. In fact, there's a lot of research that suggests that's exactly how change processes fail. One person, and we have this image that a leader is one person at the top pulling the organization along. Well, the reality is, in order for an organization to work properly, everybody's got to do some of the work together. This process says all we need is some permission from the top to begin to change and get as many people as possible involved in that change. That's the key element, one of the key elements of this book, and that's why it says leaders at all levels.